Hey sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. Somewhat overlooked when compared to the immense popularity of 1952 tops, 1952 Bowman remains an appealing vintage option and is a more affordable way to collect the players from the 1952 season. Just like the competing brand from Topps, the key Bowman cards include options for Mickey Mantle and Willie Maze. Although 1951 Bowman is generally viewed as one of the top sets of the post-war era, 1952 Bowman does not enjoy the same reputation by some collectors. However, given that the design was largely carried over from the previous year, the cards still look great. Also featuring art productions of black and white photos, the main difference is that the text box has been replaced with a facsimile signature. The card size carries over from 1951 at 2 1/16 inches by 3 1/8 inches. 1952 Bowman backs are also similar to the 1951 release, but more space is devoted to the ad and there is a premium offer. Basic info and stats are included for each player above the ad that offers a baseball cap of your favorite team in exchange for 5 wrappers and 50 cents. It's not that 1952 Bowman is a poor release, it is far from that, and many of the cards are quite impressive thanks to the vivid colors. Still, several factors contribute to the slightly diminished interest in the set. The most obvious detriment is the powerhouse 1952 Topps product of the same season. After a few years on top of the collecting world, Bowman quickly found themselves chasing Topps, and it began in 1952. Another issue for 1952 Bowman is the decreased set size, going from 324 cards in 1951 to 252 cards in 1952. This diminished lineup is even more apparent compared to the 407 card set from 1952 Topps. It was not just lesser players that were removed from the checklist. 1952 Bowman also left out a few big names, most notably Jackie Robinson and Ted Williams. Finally, while it cannot be blamed on Bowman, the lack of Hall of Fame rookie cards is also an issue. Still, the 1952 Bowman checklist packs some power. Loaded with Hall of Fame players, the set does offer a few popular names that 1952 Topps missed. This includes Stan Musial, Casey Stengel, and Ralph Kiner. Also, while 1952 Topps is filled with errors and variations, that was not an issue with the Bowman set. The only known variation is for Bill Worley. The card can be found with and without the W in his signature. Similar to many other vintage releases, 1952 Bowman suffers from centering issues and miscut cards. Also, because the cards were distributed in 6-card and 1-card gum packs, staining can be a problem. In this video, I'm going to show the top 10 most valuable cards from the 1952 Bowman set based on their PSA 5 values. I'll also give the values of those cards in higher grades as well as the population count of those grades. Now, before I get to the top 10, here are the cards that just missed the top 10. At number 15, the Monty Irvin card. At number 14, the Ralph Kiner card. At number 13, the Red Shandies card. At number 12, the Gil Hodges card. And at number 11, the Bob Feller card. So, which cards made the top 10 list? Let's go find out. Coming in at number 10, we have the Pee Wee Reese card. In a PSA 5, there have been 186 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $150. There have been 161 graded to PSA 6. They sell for around $184. There have been 118 graded to PSA 7. They sell for around $309. There have been 73 graded to PSA 8. They sell for around $559. There have only been 5 graded to PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in December of 2021 through Memory Lane and sold for $4,140. Now, there has been 1 graded a PSA 10, although there are no reported sales of that PSA 10 card in VCP's database. At number 9, we have the Larry Doby card. In a PSA 5, there have been 93 graded copies with the current VCP average price of $166. There have been 95 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $345. There have been 83 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $360. There have been 72 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $548. There have been 8 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in May of 2022 through Memory Lane and sold for $7,576. There has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Larry Doby card. At number 8, the Warren Spahn card. In a PSA 5, there have been 188 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $187. There have been 161 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $336. There have been 88 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $340. There have been 75 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $686. There have been 17 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in January of 2024 through Memory Lane and sold for $2,570. There has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Warren Spahn card. At number 7, the Duke Snider card. In a PSA 5, there have been 205 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $194. There have been 209 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $277. There have been 147 graded a PSA 7. They sell for around $475. There have been 73 graded a PSA 8. They sell for around $990. There have only been 7 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in December of 2021 through Memory Lane and sold for $6,260. And like the others, there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Duke Snider card. At number 6, the Rory Campanella card. In a PSA 5, there have been 250 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $202. There have been 231 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $290. There have been 156 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $413. There have been 94 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $721. There have only been 6 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in May of 2021 through Golden Auction and sold for $9,225, placing the Rory Campanella at the number 5 spot in terms of PSA 9 graded copies on this top 10 list. And there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Rory Campanella card. At number 5, we have the Mini Magoo card. In a PSA 5, there have been 152 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $253. There have been 158 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $421. There have been 89 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $633. There have been 71 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $1,749. There have only been 6 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in December of 2021 through Memory Lane and sold for $9,758, placing the Mini Magoo card at the number 4 spot in terms of PSA 9 graded copies on this list. And there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Mini Magoo card. At number 4, the Stan Musial card. In a PSA 5, there have been 356 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $535. There have been 263 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $713. There have been 196 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $1,260. there have been 174 graded a PSA 8. They sell for around $2,442. There have been 37 graded at PSA 9, and they sell for around $9,190. And there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Stan Musial card. All right, on to the top 3. At number 3, we have the Yogi Berra card. In a PSA 5, there have been 170 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $628. There have been 122 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $820. There have been 111 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $1,486. There have been 56 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $4,486. There have only been 6 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in February of 2024 through Memory Lane and sold for $30,509, placing the Yogi Berra also at the number 3 spot for PSA 9 graded copies on this list. And following the pattern of the others, there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Yogi Berra card. At number 2, the Willie Maze card. In a PSA 5, there have been 308 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $2,924. There have been 227 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $3,511. There have been 117 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $9,425. There have been 70 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $30,273. There have only been 6 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in February of 2022 through Heritage Auction and sold for $444,000, actually placing the Willie Maze at the number 1 spot in terms of PSA 9 graded copies on this list. And there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Willie Maze card. And of course, at number 1, the Mickey Mantle card. In a PSA 5, there have been 529 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $4,429. There have been 397 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $6,338. There have been 243 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $10,775. There have been 116 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $23,503. There have been 13 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in February of 2024 through Memory Lane and sold for $220,736, placing it behind the Willie Maze card at the number 2 spot in terms of PSA 9 graded copies on this list, most likely due to the lesser population of the Willie Maze card in a PSA 9 grade than the Mickey Mantle card. Now, there have been 2 graded a PSA 10. The only PSA 10 sale in VCP's database took place all the way back in May of 2008 through Mastro Auction and sold for only $69,000, technically placing it at the number 1 spot in terms of PSA 10 graded copies on this list, as there are so few. But you have to think that if one of those PSA 10 graded copies came up for sale today, it would blow by that previous sale of $69,000. Well, there you go, the top 10 most valuable cards from the 1952 Bowman set. As always, would love to know in the comments what you think about the 1952 Bowman set and the cards that made the top 10 list. And if you've missed any of the videos in this series, here are 2 that you can check out. With that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.